been joined by Councilmember Byron Amos. Here I was thinking we were going to start this meeting on time and a slow start.
Yes, I'm referring my time.
You are? Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ross, you have 6 minutes.
Lori Anderson referring her time to Kevin Ross as well.
All right. Yep, 9 minutes.
Good morning, members of the committee. Kevin Ross, representing A National EGTLJV. I appeared before you at your last committee meeting regarding the proposed award of the terminal-to-terminal shuttle contract to ABM. And I sounded a theme then, which I want to sound again, that it is the responsibility, the duty of this committee and of the City Council overall to exercise oversight over the procurement process and over any individual procurement to make sure that it is being properly administered and decisions are being properly made. Let me just kind of recap where we've been and then make you aware of newer developments. When I came before you at the last meeting, what I shared is that the RFP in question here had some very plain language, clear, unambiguous language, which required the awardee of this contract to be a certified small business enterprise with the City of Atlanta. And that to the extent a new entity was being utilized to pursue this contract as the proponent, then at least 50% of that entity had to meet the requirements of the RFP, which included the 50% which included the SBE requirement. And I submit to you again today that the language I'm referring to is unambiguous. We have, in the course of reviewing this matter, contacted numerous lawyers, said, read this provision, and not a single lawyer has thought that there's any doubt about what the language means. And then, as you know, the proposed award is to ABM, which is a $6.5 billion annual company, and there's no indication, with the proposals are not yet made available, but there's no indication that there's some SBE on that proposed awarded team that meets the 50% requirement that's set forth in section 2.2.3 of the RFP. The committee voted 4-2 to recommend that contract for award and send it forward to the full council. We filed a protest on October 26th on the grounds that the rules of the procurement were not being followed. And it went to the full council, and the council decided on 11-4 vote to send it back to committee. Between it going to you the first time and then to the council, the Inspector General's independent procurement review report came out. We had previously submitted an Open Records Act request that was blanket denied relative to the information we were seeking. I would submit that at a minimum, that Inspector General's report is something that we should have gotten a hold of probably before we had our visit with you. But that report made a number of findings, 9 separate findings related to this procurement. I spoke at the council meeting and I mentioned many of them. The fact that there was a change in the scoring methodology during the midst of the procurement, that the proposed minority partner on the procurement had 3 lawsuits and there'd been no investigation apparently as to that circumstance, that someone who organized the pre-conference proposal. Later, it was found to have written a letter recommending the proposed awardee. There was contact during the blackout period to discuss possible employment with the proposed awardee. And I mentioned these things at that meeting, that all of those things indicate that there were irregularities and improprieties relative to this procurement, such that it should not stand in terms of the proposed award. Now, I mentioned we filed a protest, and we got a response from the Department of Procurement that I would characterize as ridiculous. The first point that they said is that we had not met the bond requirement for the protest regs. And what the city requires is that you have to put up protest security of 1% of the financial offer that's made to the city. Well, our financial offer, which was the management fee, was $1.5 million over the proposed life of the contract. And we put up protest security of 1% of that. But the Department of Procurement denied our protest because they said that the financial offer of the contract was $45 million. They're including all of the expenses and the buses and all of those financial items, and that we were required to put up a bond of $453,000. Now, I submit to you, in addition to, I think, the extreme illogic of that position, are you basically, as a city, trying to say small businesses shouldn't be able to protest? Because saying that someone has to put up a $450,000 bond is the logical conclusion, is basically saying small businesses can't challenge city action. Then the second part of the denial of our protest was, well, our people tell us that the requirement was met with respect to the SBE, and therefore your protest is denied. No analysis, no detail, no explanation, just our people say this is right and therefore denied. We have filed an appeal to that, but again, I want to submit that protest is not meant to be and should not be construed to be the only way that a badly executed procurement gets challenged in the city of Atlanta. Yeah, that's a legal route, but there is still, again, the oversight route for the council. And you, again, need to consider whether or not you can jive what is clear in the contract and the RFP and what you're reading with the positions that are being taken by city officials. We also have filed a second protest, basically calling upon the grounds of the Inspector General's report, the ones that we think are most substantial, and that just went in this week. But again, the one that stands out for me is you can't change scoring methodology in the midst of a procurement. That's simply a no-no, that's not legal, it's unfair to the process, unfair to everyone in the process. So I submit to you again that this is a procurement in terms of its proposed award that should not be approved. It should not stand. And that you should consider one of two options. One is to have it awarded to the most responsible and responsive SBE that submitted a proposal for this service. Or secondly, you should basically have this procurement canceled and start over with proper oversight in terms of what the city is going to do. I wanted to mention that this contract initially was procured, the current one, under the sheltered market category with respect to city procurement. And then again, in this instance, under small business enterprise. And there was a lot of comment at the council meeting, and I think it was appropriate, that there are policy issues concerning here in terms of does the city want to create opportunities for small businesses? It's an entirely appropriate thing to do, happens at the federal government level quite extensively, and you have that option, and you had done so previously with this contract. A National has been a strong incumbent. Obviously, competition is part of the process, but you should not have what appears to be, in this instance, efforts to get to a result that just completely disregard what the rules of the game were that the city adopted when it put the RFP out. So I just want to emphasize that the oversight function is real and substantial, and we encourage you to continue to look at this matter very closely and make an appropriate decision. But that decision basically can't involve going forward with the proposed awardee. It runs counter to what the city said it wanted to do. Thank you.
Steve Leibovitz.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Steve Leibovitz, and I'm a partner at the Denton's Law Firm. I have no real dog in this fight at all. I was asked to review the RFP, the procurement. I've been at City Hall for a number of years ago. I've looked at many procurements. So I don't know about all the issues that Mr. Ross spoke about. I don't know why this is the fourth time this is being procured. Mr. Smith and I go way back from the airport. I really don't know the candidates other than that they're nice people. Mary Parker, nice lady for all in one. But I looked at this procurement and I'm scratching my head. One of the first things it says is its industry experience and qualifications. That's 2.21. Proponent must have continuously and actively operated and managed a ground transportation service over a fixed or similar service transportation with a minimum of 7 vehicles during the last 3 consecutive years. Now, if somebody didn't do that, can't do that, they wouldn't be qualified. It's that simple. They would not be qualified. The second paragraph says 2.22. Proponent must qualify under the city's Small Business Enterprise Opportunity Program and must meet the city's requirements contained in attached Appendix A. Must. They must do this. And then you have 2.25. And that says proponent must clearly illustrate how it meets the overall qualification requirements set forth in this RFP. Proponents that fail to meet or demonstrate the above criteria in this proposal will be deemed non-responsive and non-responsible. So, the ball game is this: unless the person that was awarded the contract can demonstrate that they meet all of these industry experience and qualifications, unless they can meet that, they haven't met what is clearly stated in the RFP. They've got to meet all of those things. We've all been around here. We claim that the airport is the best airport in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Leibovitz.
My time's up?
Yeah, it is.
All right, well, do the right thing. This should not stand.
All Our next speaker is Karen Swain. Ms. Swain, you've had 2 folks yield time to you. You'll have 9 minutes.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Karen Swain, and last week I know I was here, and I believe everyone was here, and I met you guys. So as you know, I am the owner of Excellus, and we are federal contractors. We're certified as small businesses, as a small business on the federal, the state, and the local level. And what I wanted to really speak about this morning is not necessarily what the other 2 gentlemen have talked about with respect to this terminal-to-terminal RFP, but more about the procurement practices and best practices and some of the things that at the federal level apply to us that I think consideration, excuse me, should be given to the local level. And the point I want to make is, as an 8A certified firm, at the federal level, when a contract is awarded to an 8A firm, it is called being put into the 8A program. And what that essentially means is, if the contracting officer in the agency felt that that contract scope of work was good enough for a small business, in particular an 8A small business, to fulfill that obligation on the contract, then when that period of performance is up, that contract has to be awarded to another 8A firm. The contracting officer has to make a strong case to the SBA to take that contract out of the 8A program and put it back out on the street for full and open competition, or to change the acquisition strategy to whatever the agency wants, whether it's, setting it aside for any other type of small business or using any other contract vehicle that the contracting officer has access to. And that applies to this case. This contract in particular, the terminal-to-terminal contract, has been performed by a small business, A National, for the last 6 years. Why wouldn't it be good enough to perform for another small business for the next 6 years? Unless there is a material change in scope or the operation has changed or something significant, this is how small businesses eat. This is when these programs are designed and these contracts are awarded to a small business, they should stay in the small business program. There should not be a reason, again, as I said, unless there's a real material change in scope, to move these contracts out of the small business. The other point I want to make is that something that I feel is a bit interesting about the procurement department here is the need to have contracts that are over a certain dollar amount. In this case, I believe it's about $5 million, that have to have a JV. Even at the federal level, they don't mandate JVs. That is a decision that you make as an organization if you need a JV. The procurement departments and the contracting officer put a requirement out. If you feel you need a JV, then you're welcome to bring a JV to the table. But that is not something that is mandated, and certainly not mandated by a threshold. The other point I want to make, and I think this is something that is needed for you guys to understand just from an education perspective about the small business programs, and that is this point around the 8A program. As an 8A certified firm, we are allowed to receive sole source contracts up to a maximum of $4 million, and that means, of course, sole source without competition. There are super 8As, which are your Native American-owned corporations, which are your ANCs, Alaska Native Corporations, TNCs, Tribal Native Corporations, and HNCs, Hawaiian Native Corporations, that are also 8As. However, their sole source threshold for a long time, and I don't remember how many years it's been, but it's been really the same amount of time that ours has been 4 million. Their threshold has been 22 million, okay? Now, we all know that the majority of 8A firms are people of color. A lot of those businesses are owned by African-American firms. And so I think that it is very interesting, and we in the 8A program, a lot of us small business owners, we feel the same way, that it's very interesting that the threshold is different. 4 million versus 22 million. Well, when Donald Trump left office, it happened at sort of at the 9th hour, the sole source threshold for Native American-owned corporations or super 8As was increased for DoD contracts only. That's your Department of Defense contracts only. So they did not impact the civilian agencies, and they moved this threshold from $22 million to $100 million. You can literally sole source a contract, no competition, to a Native American-owned firm up to $100 million, and you can never protest that contract. Now, why didn't the regular 8As, we get our sole source threshold, at least consideration given to moving us from 4 million to 5 million or maybe 8 million? So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I really would like for you guys to understand and be educated on what we as small businesses of color are challenged with these programs. And so when procurement departments don't enforce what you put in your procurement, you put us in a very big disadvantage. So that's what I really wanted to talk about this morning. I am hopeful that you all have learned something from these last couple of weeks that we've been talking about this. This is not, to pounce on the city council or pounce on the committee members at all. It's simply to educate you, because if you don't know, then, it sort of doesn't matter to you, and you don't understand how to walk in our shoes when you don't understand what the issues are that we're facing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sheila Jordan. Sheila Jordan's our next speaker, and had one other speaker yield time to you, so you'll have 6 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Sheila Jordan. My company is Knowledge Architects, and we're a training and technology firm here in Atlanta. We've been in business here about 26 years. My relationship with the city of Atlanta goes back 26 years. I was one of the premier small businesses, especially female minority-owned businesses, that did business in the city of Atlanta in the early 2000s. We did incredibly successful large projects with the city of Atlanta for many, many years. And I can tell you from my experience in working with the city of Atlanta with large primes and without large primes, that it was always, always difficult back 26 years ago. So it is just almost mind-boggling to me that I am standing before you 26 years later having to have this conversation, literally having to have this conversation in the midst of an environment that is hostile to small businesses today. Our diversity programs are being attacked. The way we have to procure projects are being disheveled and all kinds of what I call machinations. We change the rules for small businesses like us. I work in 15 different states in the U.S. And today, I refuse to do business with the city of Atlanta. I do over $20 million worth of business in the city of New York, in the city of Oakland, in 15 different cities and states. And I was one of your premier small businesses. I refuse to do business here. I haven't done business in the city of Atlanta in 13 years. It is because procurement is broken. It is because your payment and contracting structure is broken, and it is not conducive to me spending time, money, and effort with this level of dysfunction. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And so here I am. I employ 30 people in and around Atlanta and other cities and counties, and I don't do business here. What does that say to you? What is that? What does that say to you? And I'm not the only one. I sit on boards where I literally sit on certifying boards all over the U.S. for women and small businesses, for the GWBC WeBank. I sit on those boards. So I know what it's like to be a woman-owned business of color, and I know what these female businesses have to go against and what we have to do in order to succeed. And it is incredibly disappointing that the city I live in and I love does not support us in a way that provides us with a rich environment in which to grow and to thrive. And I just want to be able for you to hear that. And that really I'm not the only business here that refuses to do business with the city of Atlanta in the condition and the state it's in today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Vic Bolton.
I was supposed to have some time yielded. Is that not showing?
I don't see anyone else who yielded time to you, Mr. Bolton, so you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes won't do. And the church said, I think we know that this is a flawed procurement. Your own IPRO report reads like, if there were a title, it'd say bad procurement, don't do this. You've got blackout contact, scoring changes that basically invalidate what probably was the most responsive bid. You got technical response issues that were overlooked. And probably the most troubling thing I've seen is the airport response to it, which is we will monitor or we will mitigate or we'll let the user agency know. There are people in this room who have been disqualified as non-responsive for one of the things that's in that IPRO report. Actually, 2 of them. There are 2 things in that IPRO report for which other companies have been named non-responsive in the past. So it boggles my mind that we're going to work with them. Nothing important was discussed. Yeah, we did meet with them, but we didn't talk about anything that matters. You and I both know that's a lot of nonsense. I know this isn't a scriptural gathering, but there's 2 scriptures that are applicable that summarize in the same way. All things are lawful to me, but not all things are expedient. And what it means, translated simply, is because you can do a thing does not mean it's the right thing to do. You guys have the authority to make all kinds of decisions. You can do eminent domain to strike something down to build a neighborhood or a stadium or whatever. You got all kinds of power, but everything that you can do is not what you ought to do. And this is an example of where you need to back away. There's been a disparagement of my client I want to point out before I sit down, where his reputation has been sullied. He's got a 98% customer satisfaction rating with all of his clients and contracts over something like 30 years. But yet, for whatever reason, the airport now says there are unacceptable delays and complaints and so forth. Every factor that matters in his contract, the airport controls. The airport owns the vehicles that we drive. When we took this contract, they bought a fleet of compressed natural gas vehicles that were a brand new model that did not work well. Came from China via Canada, and they were horrible. They were down more than they were up. And so we had situations where we have 8 people that should be driving on a shift, and we got 6 buses working. The airport closes lanes, cones off sections, does construction, doesn't bother to tell anybody. We show up on a Monday morning and there's a lane that's gone. What we do is make circles around the world's busiest airport all day, every day. And every factor that regulates that, the airport controls, but yet somehow the user is responsible. We need to own that. And then my final thing is that I've heard multiple people, including members of this committee, talk about this problem is a problem, but it's not our problem. If not you, then who? You are the watchman on the wall. You are the Marines on the wall that Jack Nicholson talked about in You Want Me on That Wall. You need me on that wall. You are the ones who can adjudicate matters like this, and we ask that you would please file this procurement. Thank you.
Les Schneider is our next speaker. 3 minutes.
I'm Les Schneider with the law firm of Wimberly & Lawson, and I am echoing some of the comments you heard earlier. I say amen to the points that Mr. Leibowitz and Mr. Ross indicated, that the clear wording of this RFP says the proponent must be a city enterprise part of that program and meet the requirements under Appendix A. The word "and" matters, and that was not met in this case. This was a small business set-aside contract. It suddenly appears as a joint venture contract, yet we have shrouded in secrecy all the information about whether or not the winner actually qualifies under the criteria under Appendix A and being a certified enterprise program. The federal program with qualified disabled veterans is very similar to this. And there have been attempts by companies like Uber and people like that to push out the small business person and to try to avoid the niceties of the law and wages that should be paid to people, et cetera. All of that is an attack on small business. And I guess at the end of the day, what this is really about today is whether you're going to be supportive of small business and whether you're going to allow a procurement department that is shrouded in secrecy, apparently, because they have blackout periods and things like that, where you can't really get a lot of information. And then on top of that, if you appeal, we ask you to post a bond. What would it be if we had people who wanted to grieve their rights in court and we didn't just have a filing fee, we made them put a bond up for that? This is just an attempt to stop small businesses from protesting when they think they have a righteous appeal. And that's not something you all should encourage. And it's certainly, we have a history, not just Atlanta, but other counties, the state of Georgia, and even many times the federal government, of trying to, basically have a result-oriented decision. And in this case, obviously it takes 3 or 4 or perhaps 5 times to get the result that the procurement department wants. I've been involved in a lot of these type of cases. It's very rare that something gets bid out 4 different times. And it usually sends a message to my thoughts, and maybe sometimes I'm too cynical about this, but that we're all about just a result-oriented decision. We really don't care about anything else. We don't care about basic fairness. We don't look at the track record, and we changed this contract to a joint venture. So what did Darrell Anderson do about that? He took a joint venture partner, but he took another somebody who
Mr.
qualifies
Schneider.
for
Your
the
time is
smaller
up.
business. I would ask you to please take a hard look at this and send it back for it to be done correctly. Thank you.
Ron Shakir.
Good morning, Ron Shakir. I was kind of shocked to see and I'm very concerned that an entrepreneur like Darrell Anderson would have to push and fight to maintain his presence to operate in the city of Atlanta. What is the criteria that Mr. Anderson have not been able to exhibit in a strong, proud way? I have sat at a beautiful restaurant when the name Miss Norwood came up, and they was going to vote for her, and they demonstrated that in their voice and tone. Darrell Anderson, tone has been one who have provided top service. If you go to his office, if you see his operation, you see one that African Americans and small businessmen can take pride in. The way he treat people, the way he show up, it matters. The fact is, when we see an Atlanta homegrown person succeed, I didn't tell him what I was going to talk about. But I know about public housing, and I know the citizens and the greatness and the contribution that these communities made. Where Darrell Anderson had family in this town that's deeply rooted. And he's a shining example of how to work with your local government. Stability matters. look around and look what Atlanta stands for. Look at the communities, the housing, the neighborhoods, the people who elected Maynard Jackson, Shirley Franklin, and black leadership in the city. It has made cities all around this country proud and make them think about Atlanta in a special way. Gentrification displacement is going to put different votes on the table, but let's not forget about the homegrown people. Let's not forget about the people who have produced good businesses and have supported you all, and who stood and showed up. Stop by, go by, drive by, and look at what kind of business this man runs. I've been trying to get the language right, but whatever it is that'll help stabilize and not undercut businessmen, African-American businessmen, females throughout the city, let's look where we can strengthen those communities and not slide up ways to push those good, shining examples out of our community. Thank you.
DeJuan Robinson.
What I want to talk about is the 50th year of Maynard Jackson, where we sit at. When Maynard became mayor, Mr. Faroki, Mr. Juan, he didn't come in to exile whites, Jews that he ran against and won. He made everybody come together. So we're proud to be in Atlanta, the civil rights home. If it wasn't for that civil right, Mr. Alex Juan, you wouldn't have the right to be who you are today in Atlanta, and there has to have some respect to that. Maynard chained himself at the airport and demanded small minority participation, and the airport today is spitting on that legacy. When you downtrodden small black businesses and playing politics, no room for that. No room for that. So not only this, for years we've been spiraling down that downward path, giving the airport too much authority and acting like they're above reproach. We fired a guy, Mr. Faroki, last week. That was over the OCC. We have been disrespecting the IG whom we hired. We call them down for their help, and then we dismiss them and don't want to hear from them. Who do we think we are? Like, we cannot be this in Atlanta in 2023, Mr. Faroki. We cannot be. Your father, whom he's tutored and mentored many black kids over at Clark. Clark got an award last week. And I think you was a little late to the party, but you know the history and you know what your father stands for. I just like to just see that DNA rub off on you just a little bit, but that's doing what's right. It ain't about Mr. Anderson today. It's doing what's right. When you took that oath on Georgia Tech 2 years ago, you swore by the citizen of Atlanta. You have the most diverse community in Atlanta. We all know that. You have the most diverse community in Atlanta. Mr. Alex Juan, not so. He can do what he want to do and not be held accountable because we just don't have that. It just is what it is. But in order for Atlanta to move forward, like the civil rights movement moved forward, black, white, Jews, gay, straight must come together and do what's right. I just went and watched Mr. Bayard Rustin movie the other day, Ms. Norwood. I was so proud that Martin, Mr. Rustin, first of all, Antonio, he put on the march at Washington. They were trying to exile him because he was gay. Martin stood up on national television and said, Mr. Rustin is the finest man out here. He's qualified to do it whether he's gay or straight or not. You know the most powerful bill to stand today, Alex Warren, is the gay rights bill. It's the most powerful bill that don't have to be voted on no more. Because black men stood in the face of it and stood with their gay friends and passed that bill and made sure that gay can come out and be who they want to be without being killed and water hosed and all that. But not so much for the small black man. We still fighting to this day, and it should not be so. In order for us to move this forward, Mr. Faroki, we must do what's right.
Thank you. Sally Riker is our final speaker.
Good morning. Thank you, committee, for this opportunity. First of all, I'm Sally Riker. I am here with the Mount Perrin Northside Citizens Association. We're your northernmost community in the city of Atlanta. I'm coming to talk to you about infrastructure again. And first of all, I have seen a lot of great progress in the community. Blackland has been paved. There's been streets around Atlanta International School that have been paved. And first and foremost, West Paces Ferry has been paved, which is fantastic to see. So thank you very much, and thank you to the staff for making this happen. I came down onto the committee meeting for June 14th and was talking about Mount Perrin Road, which the city has promised to have paved, and it is in the T-SPLOST project list. Mount Perrin is a very, very busy road, as you all know. It's a minor arterial road, and we have had a high volume of traffic. A lot of it has been due to 285, all of the different challenges that 285 has been presenting at the perimeter with all the construction. So a lot of people take Mount Perrin as an east-west connector. We also have a lot of cut-through traffic from Cobb County coming through Mount Perrin and using Mount Perrin to get to the city center of Buckhead. So I believe with the growth of the Atlanta region, Mount Perrin has just seen the end of its life. We have had a lot of potholes and a lot of issues with the road that remain to be unfixed. They end up circled but not touched. So when I came down June 14th, it was promised that we would have paving this fall. And it is fall, but there's no paving. And so I understand that the city's very busy, but would like further clarification and a better timeline as to when Mount Perrin will be paved, because it was promised to be next. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who came down today for public comment. We appreciate it. I want to acknowledge that since I first introduced members of the committee, we've been joined by 3 others: Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, Councilmember Antonio Lewis, and Councilmember Keisha Sean Waits. Our first order of business is to adopt the agenda. I'll move to do so. Is there a second? Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Our next order of business is to approve the minutes. I'll move to do so. Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
We don't have any formal agency or department reports today, but Commissioner Cavanis of ATL DOT asked to say a few words, so I'll invite him to the podium.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Solomon Cavanis, ATL DOT. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak. No significant comments, just want to speak to all of the activities that are ongoing. We're looking forward to entering this fall season with a number of projects and work within the department, ATL DOT. And I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday. We've done a lot of great work together. We have a number of meetings upcoming to include MPUQ. I think that's on this Thursday. We have MPUI, an invite for December 15th. And we have a information session with the South Boulevard project in District 1. So I just wanted to come up and say, let's keep the good work going, and to lighten the mood, ATL DOT only has pies for you. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday, and looking forward to our continued work together. So with that, thank you.
You're stuck here for a moment now. Mr. Lewis.
You open yourself up, and on Metropolitan Parkway, there's a manhole with a cone in it right now. And the manhole is extremely big. I know Metropolitan is one of those silk roads. The silk road ain't that silk no more. What I keep seeing is bumps keep coming up. So we need as much, whatever we've done to make the roads in the other part of the city look better. Because we fixed Metropolitan, but the whole potholes keep popping up. And so we can look at that. And also Pryor Road. I know we talked about it last week. There's a cone. Right now, I passed by, it slowed me down this morning. And there's a cone on Pryor Road. It's been sitting there 2 weeks now. So if we can get someone to come and do whatever it takes to fix that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Norwood.
Yes, Commissioner. Ms. Riker asked for further clarification on Mount Perrin and a timeline. I know that the city has been approached by the Buckhead Community Improvement District, which just paved West Paces Ferry and paved streets along West Paces Ferry, and they are ready, willing, and able to resurface Mount Perrin. They are ready, willing, and able to have a contract with y'all and go ahead and get that done. We know you have obligations in every single council district, but we are unique in that we have someone who's just done work for you and for the city that has been satisfactory, and we could get a major street. It is falling apart. And this administration knows that I have been asking for 2 years on these streets that are falling apart. They are our commercial corridors. They are our commuter streets. And it's imperative that we not have people on the type of degraded streets, deteriorated streets that we have right now. And y'all are being great. You're going to do some work on Howell Mill, which also is falling completely apart. But my request today to you, to the administration, is let's get BCID, get a contract, get them out there. Let's get this done. There is no reason not to. Please.
Yeah, thank you,
Please.
Councilmember. I appreciate that, and I will think a third time about approaching the podium for well wishes. I do appreciate that. As you know, we've done great work with BCID. That's an idea I hadn't considered. We're actually game planning, thinking about Mount Perrin and how we can expedite that work. So we do appreciate it, and we'll follow up with you and the Neighborhood Association.
They're right there. They're out there right now. The same company that did West Paces is doing Rahman Road as we speak. So they're out there. They'd be ready to go. We need to get a contract. We got 2 more council meetings. We could get it approved, and we could rock and roll.
We'll look into it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Wan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Commissioner, just wanted to give us we say Atlanta's a group project. I've got a group project for all of us, council and the department alike. I'm a little disappointed in our reaction and response when we have to close a major intersection like Cheshire Bridge and La Vista. It's been happening, let me go back and just say, I'd love to see us work on a traffic diversion management plan for crises like that. When we know we have major arteries and intersections closed for an extended period of time, particularly how we implement signage, warning drivers as they approach that the intersection's closed, and how we manage traffic that then gets diverted through surrounding neighborhoods. So just something that we can work on going forward, but I think it'd just be a great way for us to be more responsive to our constituents in times of crisis. So
Thank you, Councilmember. We actually have a strike force that's working on that diversion now, but we will be working on institutionalizing those events.
Thank you.
Responses to those events.
Ms. Overstreet.
I thank you for offering yourself today for for all of the things that we need to, continue here at the city. Thank you so much for that. And happy holidays to you too.
Thank you.
I'll tell you again when I get done. But I really want to talk about Cascade Complete Streets. I know that we made an agreement to go before the community every 6 months or so, and you all have done an awesome job of making sure that we are up to date with where we are with our progress. But November 2023 marks year 2 since the groundbreaking of Cascade Complete Streets. It was November 2021 when we all stood there together and broke ground at Cascade United Methodist Church on the side of the Cascade Complete Streets where we were supposed to start the whole project. We started there, right at Cascade United Methodist Church. And here we are 2 years later. Although you are updating the community, we should not even be having this conversation 2 years later. And I say that as I approach my home, the area, the front of my subdivision that has been dark for 2 years because our lights have been out due to the moving of utilities, and we're used to having fanfare as I approach my home. We're afraid to put flowers in because they're going to be temporary. No lights are shining on them at night. And here comes the Christmas holiday, and we don't have outlets to make sure that we can put up our Christmas lights and things of that nature. We've really been out of sorts now for 2 years. And I want to make sure that it is top of mind to get this Complete Streets project done from west to east as timely as we possibly can. I do not want to go through another holiday season without lights. As I enter the area where this is where I raise my children, right? And it's supposed to be better. I mean, before I even decided to come on council, I took my children to make sure that they were picking out colors and having a hand in what color our benches would be and where the trash cans would be located. And we also did that at Cascade United Methodist Church. That happened. It wasn't ATL-DOT at the time, but the city of Atlanta came for those vision boards. And my children were so excited, and here we are now. I mean, that was like, what, 2017 or 2016? I'm losing years. I can't even remember exactly what year that was. But now we're in 2023, and the front of my subdivision looks like it did 2 years ago. And I would like for us to make sure that we are completing the Cascade Complete Streets. I know that I've been told a million times that it's a priority, and we're top of mind, and we're first right now, and it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen. But here we are, headed to 2024. And I don't know when I'm gonna have lights at the front of my subdivision. And I just want you all to know, communication is fantastic, but work is better. I really want to get it done.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get this Complete Street done. We must. Immediately. Like this needs to be something that we should be like motivated, if for no other reason, just pure embarrassment that we did a groundbreaking 2 years ago. And we haven't changed much at all. So, thank you for offering yourself today. I appreciate that, because this really is a good way to end the year with us staying on the same page. Cascade Complete Streets must be completed immediately. Happy holidays.
Thank you. So, in all candor, I want to say we probably should get together with the community soon, because we have some news, but we'll work with you on progress as it is moving along. I'll go on record, and I will say thank you to you all for offering comments. Look forward to 2024, but before 24, we have a lot of work to do, and we'll be working with all of you on all these issues. So it's good to see you again, and from our family to yours, we want to say happy holidays.
You're not done yet. You got two more, and you haven't even gotten to me yet. So, Mr. Lewis.
He thought it was over.
Turn my paper over.
But Brown Mill Road, I came back just to make sure I let you know exactly where the prior road was. That's right in front of Lakewood Amphitheater. And just think about the type of traffic that we have coming right there. And so we need that done and fixed as soon as possible, just to make sure that we're just being good partners. And the next one is Brown Mill Road. Browns Mill Road is the worst road in the city of Atlanta. Browns Mill Road is the worst road in the city of Atlanta. We have to invest in Brown Mill Road. I know it's the furthest you can go in the city. I know it takes you out of the city. But why do the roads, last year I talked about Metropolitan being the worst road, because it takes you out of the city. So we talking about the South Side. Take care of the stuff that brings people into the city. When you have folks that live on Brown Mill Road who are a partner city to Hateville right by the Porsche, and they say, man, the roads just look different the moment you leave Atlanta. And so I just need that type of assistance. I like to go out. I like to go to the barber shop. I like to go to Kroger in my community. I like to go to the stuff in my community. And so they're pulling me over saying, look, Brown Mill Road is the worst road in the city of Atlanta, council member. Can you do something to help us? Thank you.
It used to be a point of twisted pride that I could say I had the worst road in the city of Atlanta in DeKalb Avenue, but now that y'all paved it, everyone else has the worst road in the city of Atlanta. So you got your work cut out for you. Ms. Waits.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, I wanted to ask about Highway 166. There are portions that I'm aware that belong to other municipalities, but oftentimes it's pretty dark and not well lit. And for the portion that is within the city of Atlanta, just wanted to get an update offline in terms of how we keep that lit, specifically given that the holidays are coming up. So this is a friendly statement. We'll send photos.
Oh, great, okay.
Thank you.
And if I may, we have a relationship with Georgia Power, and Georgia Department of Transportation will look right into that, but I'll follow up after this.
Mr. Davis, still a question? Nope. Okay. I got two questions and one comment. Two questions specific to my district since I have you here. One, there's a long-standing lane closure that y'all have permitted on Juniper between 14th and 13th, adjacent to the Campanile building site. There's no work going on that site. There hasn't been for some time. There's no open permits. I've conferred with the Office of Buildings. So my question to the department is, why does that permit still exist? And if it doesn't exist, why haven't y'all enforced clearing that lane, opening it back up to traffic?
Yes, I'll have to follow up with our permitting department and also our maintenance group. I know there's construction on the far end. I think that's 13th.
13th,
yeah.
Yep.
And the
well, it's stored. I mean, there's no construction going on, so they're just storing stuff.
They're storing, and there is a divergence considering the grade coming over the hill. So we'll follow up and look at that with our traffic.
I'm getting, and I'm not. I can voice my own complaint, but I'm getting complaints from residents.
Yes, of course.
Separate from the complaints about the structure, but of the actual street closure there. The second is, 5 years ago, maybe 4 at best, I identified funding for a hawk signal at Somerset and North Avenue. Somewhere in the bowels of procurement, this project has gotten lost, and so I would like an update. We get periodic updates that, oh, it's coming, but it hasn't emerged yet. And I used to say the most deflating issue of my time on council has been DeKalb Avenue's slow progress. Now this is the most deflating issue. Given that we have funding for it, it's a hawk signal, it's not a major lift, but we can't seem to get it installed at a heavy pedestrian area, so I'm going to flag that. If I can get an update from someone on your team, that would be great. And the last thing I'll note is a point of personal frustration, maybe my colleagues share it, is the lack of transparency and regular updates or, on our district discretionary infrastructure bond projects. Not expecting them to be implemented yet, but I'm stuck in this holding space of identifying projects that I'd like to use my discretionary dollars for and not getting final costing for it and kind of kicking off the process by which these projects at some point come to life. And I don't know if my colleagues have the same experience or not. I'm just sharing mine. And so I think we're 2 years into a 4-year term. All of us have these dollars on our desk to decide what to do at the beginning of our term. And maybe some speed tables have popped up here or there from people's discretionary dollars, but having some clarity on the projects that we're proposing, some are complex, some are not, right? I mean, I understand it's not apples to apples, but having that regular cooperation and collaboration so we know where we stand, what's possible with the dollars we have, would be very helpful.
Thank you for that, Councilman. Follow up.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the legislative part of our agenda. Thank you for your time today, Commissioner. Our first section to address next is public hearing items. I'm going to move to enter public hearing.
Mr. Chair, this item will need to be amended. So we need to amend this item first before we enter the public hearing. So there would need to be a motion to amend. The amendment adds Beckwith Court Southwest and changes the street name to Dr. Thomas W. Cole Jr. Street to Dr. Thomas W. Cole Jr. Way in the caption and all references of the legislation.
Motion to amend by Juan, second by Amos. Please open the vote on the motion to amend the paper.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The item has been amended. Item number 1, 23-01582, an ordinance by council members Jason Dozier, Michael Julian Bond, Andre L. Boone, as amended. Number 2 by Transportation Committee, an ordinance to rename Beckwith Street Southwest starting from Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard to Beckwith Court Southwest to Martin Luther King Jr. Drive to Dr. Thomas W. Cole Jr. Way to waive certain provisions of Section 138-8 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. Now we make a motion to enter public hearing.
Make a motion to enter public hearing before we debate the item. Second by Juan.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is now open.
We do not have any speakers signed up for public hearing, so I'll move to exit public hearing. Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is now closed.
A motion to amend the paper by Councilmember Lewis to add his name to it. And Councilmember Amos's name to it. I will second that motion.
One moment. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
Motion to approve as amended.
Motion to approve is amended by Amos, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. This takes us to item number 2, 23-01583, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier, as amended by Transportation Committee to rename Foster Place Southwest from Lawton Street Southwest to the dead end of Foster Street Southwest to Dr. Toussaint King Hill Jr. Place, to waive certain provisions of Section 138-8 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Well, I got to move to enter public hearing first. Is there a second? Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is now open.
And we have no one signed up for public comment on this public hearing item. I'll move to close public hearing. Is there a second? Second by Juan. Please open the vote on the motion to close public hearing.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is now closed.
And I'll move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This takes us to Section G, Communications/Resolutions. Item number 323R4535, a resolution by Transportation Committee appointing Ms. Rebecca Cerna to serve on the Atlanta Fatal Vehicle Collision Review Commission as appointee of the Atlanta City Council from a pedestrian and/or bicycling advocacy organization for a term of 4 years, and for other purposes.
Ms. Serna, are you with us today? You were here earlier. Oh, there you are, sorry. You could come forward, and I think most of us know you, but if you don't mind explaining why you would like to serve on this committee.
Good morning, Council Member and Transportation Committee. My name is Rebecca Serna, and I'm the Executive Director at Propel ATL. I'm joined here today by Gioving Gerard, who, I'll let him introduce himself, but he was hit by a car driver. It was a hit and run on Metropolitan recently. So regarding the Fatal Crash Commission, I appreciate the nomination. I would be honored to serve. Reflecting on some of the comments we heard today, I heard a lot of talk about paving and potholes, and while these things are very important and we recognize their importance, I also hope that anytime we're talking about paving, we also incorporate safety improvements into those projects. And I know from conversations with all of you that you care deeply about that. So just wanted to highlight that since we are talking about a Fatal Crash Commission. And then I wanted to make everyone aware that last year in 2022, the number of people killed while walking or using wheelchairs in our city increased from 31 the prior year to 38. That's a 23% increase in 1 year. This is very concerning. So these soaring pedestrian deaths, which increased the prior year as well from 2020 to 2021 and have been on the rise each year since 2018 in our city, we need to put a halt to this. The City Council adopted Vision Zero in 2020, and we're very grateful for that directional and vision setting. Now we need to implement the Vision Zero action plan that is underway and almost complete, we understand, and move forward very decisively to incorporate safety into all of our projects. If you, for just a moment, let Mr. Gerard talk about his experience, I'd appreciate it.
Good morning. I apologize for my dressed down appearance. It's probably the easiest thing to wear when you're still recovering.
Can you just put your mouth a little bit closer to the mic?
Sure, yeah, thanks. My name is Gioving Gerard. I'm born and raised in Atlanta. Lived here my whole life. And I'm an avid cyclist. I'm one of a few individuals who have biked 99% of all the roads within 285. And so when I say I know the roads fairly well, I'm actually coming from a place of experience. I live in Southeast Atlanta, and one thing that I realize as I bike, right, is the disparity and inequality in bike infrastructure in different neighborhoods. A lot of investment, especially to that Vision Zero point, has been made in North and East communities, but when I bike in South and West communities that are more industrial, more truck traffic, more state roads or state highways for better or worse, there is a lack of bike safety infrastructure. And my concern is I might bike for recreational purposes because that's how I maintain my health, right? But for many people in those communities, it's not a recreational matter. That's their primary means of transportation. And so my concern is there might be people that are marginalized or missing in the middle, aren't being represented. They might not use these transportation methods such as walking and biking for fear of their safety, but then that has a compound effect on health issues later on down the road. And so I say all this to say that if there was, if anything, that could be done, right, just use data to inform where we can make improvements in terms of pedestrian and cyclist safety, specifically in areas that are currently underrepresented today, such as the south and the west parts of the city. This took place again a week ago on Metropolitan, Parkway or highway or whatnot, and it was a little disheartening to hear a lot of mentions about potholes, right, and the potholes' impacts on vehicles. But as a cyclist, your body feels that even more. You don't have the buffer between a car. When you're biking and you hit a pothole and you might jolt to the left, you're in traffic. And I don't like to feel like a second-class citizen while I'm trying to navigate the city in a healthy way that in some ways the city encourages, right? That's where we're getting a lot of the grant funding for the Beltline, a lot of this visibility at the national level. It's because of these connected community investments, and I'd like to see more representation done if possible. So thank you, Rebecca, for letting me share some of your time, but just want to be able to share some of my experience because it could have gone differently, right? I could have just been a number on the news as opposed to someone who's able to now speak for those that weren't able to survive from their injuries. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. We wish you a full recovery. Thank you for coming to making the time to come down. And thank you, Mr. Turner, for being willing to serve. Motion approved by Juan, second by Overstreet. Mr. Lewis, do you want to say something before we vote?
And I want to say thank you for sending me the email and for sending me some solutions, some ways that we can fix some of the stuff in our area. When I spoke to ATL DOT earlier today, when I talked about the end of the cities not having the same investment, that's what I was thinking of. And when we talk about Vision Zero, Metropolitan is now it's a fast road now. It's turned into like one of the fastest roads in the city. So we got to find a way to get better at that. And so we know it's a state-owned road, and DOT did what they can to repave it. But now we got to grow and get better there. But I'm so sorry about what happened to you. And as an avid scooter rider, I'm not a bike rider. Everybody knows I don't want to sweat, right? So as an avid scooter rider, I ride Metropolitan Parkway. They see me riding down Metropolitan Parkway on my scooter. She's seen it. And so I hit those potholes, and I know we need some protected bike lanes. If Metropolitan Parkway sat anywhere else in the city of Atlanta, imagine what it'll look like. And so it's so many. I appreciate you, and just know that's the fight that we're going through.
All right, we have a motion by Juan, second by Overstreet. Please open the vote. Just for members of the public, this is a new commission, the Fatal Vehicle Collision Review Commission, which consists of 7 members: the City Council Transportation Committee Chair, City Council Public Safety Committee Chair, City Council CDHS Committee Chair, the ATL DOT designee, APD's designee, City Planning Commissioner's designee, and an appointee of City Council from a pedestrian and bicycling advocacy organization, which is this appointment today, Ms. Serna. Oh.
The vote is open.
I'm tired of it.
Lewis is yes.
You can't play that game.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Chair, we will need to refer this item to COC.
I'll move to refer to COC. Second by Juan. Please open the vote on the motion to refer.
One moment. The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is referred to COC. This takes us to our consent agenda, Section H, ordinance for first reading. Item number 4, 23-01642. An ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a lease agreement with American Airlines Incorporated for 1220 Toffee Terrace Building B and employee parking at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, waiving the lease of city-owned real property requirements contained in Section 2-1547, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes. This takes us to our regular agenda. Mr. Chair, if there is no objection from the committee, the department requests us to take items 5, 6, 7, and 8 together as a block.
Please do.
Item number 5, 23-01594. An ordinance by Transportation Committee amending the FY 2024 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations grant funds in the amount of $8,340,700.00 from the Federal Aviation Administration for FAA grant agreement listed herein for the purpose of reconstructing taxiway R shoulders, reconstructing taxiway D shoulders, and reconstructing taxiway L shoulders, and for other purposes. Item number 6, 23-01595. An ordinance by Transportation Committee amending the FY 2024 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations grant funds in the amount of $41,565,948.00 from the Federal Aviation Administration for FAA grant agreement listed herein for the purpose of replacing power distribution concourse E and for other purposes. Item number 7, 23-01596. An ordinance by Transportation Committee amending the FY 2024 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations grant funds of $42,832,219.00 from the Federal Aviation Administration for FAA grant agreement listed herein for the purpose of reconstructing Apron Ramp 20 and reconstructing apron ramp 21 and for other purposes. Item number A23O1597, an ordinance by Transportation Committee amending FY 2024 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations grant funds in the amount of $1,788,125.00 from the Federal Aviation Administration for FAA grant agreement listed herein for the purpose of noise mitigation and for other purposes.
All right, aviation.
Good morning, Brian Benefield, Deputy General Manager, Chief Financial Officer, Department of Aviation. As stated in the captions, these ordinances are to amend the fiscal year 24 budget to anticipate and appropriate approved FAA grant funds for airfield-related projects, concourse-related projects, and noise mitigation.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable. Item number 9, 23O1598, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the Department of Transportation to accept grant award funds from the Georgia Department of Transportation to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2024 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations an amount of $5,236,000.00 for the PATH 400 trail extension from Loredains Drive to City of Sandy Springs limit, PI number listed herein, to enter into agreements with the Georgia Department of Transportation for implementation of grant acceptance and participation and for other purposes.
Anyone from ATL DOT want to speak to this one?
Greg Moore, Deputy Commissioner, ATL DOT, Capital Delivery. The department is in support of this legislation and a continuation for the development of the PATH 400 trail.
Move to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 10, 23O1604, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki authorizing the mayor as designee to accept grant funds from the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and amend the FY 2024 intergovernmental grant budget by adding to anticipation and appropriation an amount not to exceed $25,000,000 for the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity discretionary grant, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements with the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration for grant acceptance and participation and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, this item will need to be amended. The amendment changes the second table from add to anticipations to add to appropriations in section 2.
Motion to amend. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. Mr. Chair, we need to adopt the paper as amended.
Motion to adopt as amended. Is there a second? Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable as amended. Section J, resolutions. Item number 11, 23R4352, an amended number 2 resolution by Councilmember Amir Faroki authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement with ABM All-in-One Security Services Incorporated for agreement listed herein, ground transportation terminal-to-terminal shuttle services at Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport, an amount not to exceed $1,455,695.00 for the management fee and the compensation for the services provided under the agreement established in the Department of Aviation's annual and fiscal year operating budgets. All services will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, the administration requests to hold this paper.
Motion to hold. Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is held in committee. Mr. Chair, if there is no objection from the committee, the sponsor requests to take items 12, 13, 14, and 15 together as a block.
Please do.
Item number 12, 23R 4432, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the Commissioner of Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study on 25th Street Northwest between Alden Avenue Northwest and Peachtree Street Northeast to determine the need for any safety improvements such as traffic calming devices, reduced speeds and stop signs, and for other purposes. Item number 13, 23R 4433, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the Commissioner of Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study on Channing Drive Northwest between Howard Mill Road Northwest and Northside Drive Northwest to determine the need for any safety improvements such as traffic calming devices, reduced speeds, or stop signs, and for other purposes. Item number 14, 23R 4434, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study on Mount Perrin Road Northwest between Interstate 75 and Paces Ferry Road, determine the need of any safety improvements such as traffic calming devices, reduced speeds, or stop signs, and for other purposes. Item number 15, 23R 4435, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study on Ridgewood Road from Paces Ferry Road Northwest to the District 8 border to determine the need of any safety improvements such as traffic calming devices, reduced speeds, or stop signs, and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, these items will need to be amended. The amendment makes minor revisions in the second and third be it further resolved clauses.
Motion by Member Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote on the motion to amend these papers.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. These items are amended.
I think we have Ms. Blumberg.
Good morning. Lenore Bromberg, Deputy Commissioner of Engineering for ATL DOT. Just wanted to let you know that we have no objections to these requests and happy to answer any questions you might have.
A motion approved by Norwood, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable as amended. Item number 16, 23R 4438, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Sandy Springs for the construction of Path 400 multi-use trails listed along State Route 400 for Loredens Drive within the city limits of Atlanta through the city limits of Sandy Springs to the south of Johnson Ferry Road on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation in an amount not to exceed $400,000.00. All work will be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
I'll move to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 17, 23R 4439, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the mayor as designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute a project management agreement with the Path Foundation and Georgia Nonprofit Corporation for the Path 400 trail from Loredens Drive to the City of to the City of Sandy Springs city limits, PI number listed herein, in an amount not to exceed $5,468,543.00. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for the purposes. And Mr. Chair, this item will need to be amended. The amendment attaches Exhibit A to the legislation.
Motion to amend as stated. second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is amended.
Motion to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. Item number 1823R4441, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute amendment number 1 to the Path 400 Trail Project Management Agreement with Path Foundation Incorporated, a Georgia nonprofit corporation for several segments of the Path 400 Trail between Peachtree Road and Garson Drive to include the Peachtree Park, Adena Phase 1, and Gordon Bynum to Miami Circle phases of the Path 400 Trail to extend the term of the agreement for a period not to exceed 730 consecutive days to begin on January 1st, 2024, giving a new expiration date of December 31st, 2026 to update Exhibit B to add additional funding in the amount not to exceed $1,081,784.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1923R4442, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to authorize amendment number 1 to the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Sandy Springs for the design of the Path 400 multi-use trail extension between Laura Dance Drive and the city of Sandy Springs city limit to add additional funding in an amount not to exceed $17,457.28. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 2023R4443, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute amendment number 1 to the Path 400 Trail Project Management Agreement with Path Foundation Incorporated, a Georgia nonprofit corporation for the Path 400 Trail from Wyuka Road to Laura Dance Drive, PI number listed herein, to add additional funding in an amount not to exceed $2,047,686.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 23R4451, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Dozier requesting the mayor or his designee to make an always stop control intersection at Lucille Avenue and Altoona Place Southwest to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install a stop sign at the intersection and for other purposes. And this item will need to be amended to make a minor revision in the now there be it resolved clause.
Motion amended by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote on the motion to amend.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item has been amended.
Motion approved. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. Item number 23R4452, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Sisson Avenue Northeast, Delano Drive Northeast, and Hillcrest Avenue Northeast an all-way stop control intersection, to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 2323R 4536, a resolution by Transportation Committee to fund the West Curb Improvement Project component for project number FC-9277, Plain Train Tunnel West Extension, Phase 1 Progressive Design Build at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with Clark Atkinson Technique, a joint venture comprised of Clark Construction Group LLC, Atkinson Construction and Technique Concrete Construction LLC for the funding in an amount of $27,200,000.00 for construction services. All contract will be charged to and paid from the fund department account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Aviation.
Good morning, Tom Nasalki, Assistant General Manager for Planning and Development at the Department of Aviation. This legislation will fund the completion of the West Curb, which will be the future home of our ground transportation center. The legislation will fund the completion of paving, installation of canopies, signage, security, and access control to the West Curb.
Motion approved. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 2423R 4537, a resolution by Transportation Committee supplementing funds under contract number FC 9877, Business and Technical Consulting Services with Atlanta Airlines Terminal Company in an amount not to exceed $1,813,333.00 for fiscal year 2024. All contract work to be charged to and paid from the accounts as listed herein and for other purposes.
Aviation.
This piece of legislation is associated or is going to support the funding of the airlines liaison team. The airport use and lease agreement that the city has with the airlines allows for them to staff a team primarily to interact with Department of Aviation staff on the implementation of our capital program. So it's a coordination function or coordination tool for the airlines to better communicate with us. And so this funding will fund their team for the fiscal year. Ultimately, though, the city gets reimbursed through an increase in the landing fee.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 2523R 4538, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend RFPC 1220100 Concourse D widening construction management at risk at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with Holder Moody Bryson Sovereign, a joint venture increasing the not to exceed amount of $615,000.00 and to fund the construction phase of the Concourse D North an amount of $250 million.00 for the services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. All services will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Save the biggest for last. Getting close to $1 billion here. Aviation.
That is correct. So this funding will allow us to completely buy out the widening of Concourse D for the North Pier. So construction's underway, but in the next few months we'll really be ramping up construction. And again, this funding will complete the funding for the widening of the North Pier. We'll still be coming back for widening for the South Pier, but that'll be in the near future.
Mr. Juan.
Thank you. Given the dollar amount, we have to ask some questions.
Certainly.
So is this in line with what the original anticipated budget was? And if not, what was the delta? I shouldn't use that when I'm talking about the airport. What was the difference, the variance, and then what were the causes of the variance?
Fortunately, it is in line with our budgeting. Believe me, we are monitoring this very closely, especially in this environment of inflation. and just challenges with constructing in this particular location on the airport.
Are y'all experiencing, I mean, are y'all feeling the increase in cost pressure?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
But you just budgeted for it, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yeah. I mean, we budget for escalation as well as what we call design evolution. As the design progresses and more detail becomes readily apparent, we can say that we had that covered.
Okay. I mean, we're finally seeing some inflation relief and producer price index relief over the last 2 days, so hopefully that bodes well for the other projects y'all have.
And we certainly hope for that as well.
Thank you. I'll move approval if it hasn't already been done.
Bishop moved by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Terrific. That brings us to the end of our meeting. I'll note our next meeting on the November 29th, I will be absent. I'll be on parental leave following the birth of our second child. So I'll turn the gavel over to our Vice Chair, Councilmember Lewis. And hopefully we'll be back in December for our last meeting of the year. We are adjourned.